Hello everyone, just so you know, there are spoilers from the 9.1 PTR in this video from the very start.
It's also sponsored by Squarespace. That's spoiler.
Hello Internet, Taliesin here, and today we are talking World of Warcraft patch 9.1. But specifically we are talking the Sanctum of Domination raid, and specifically we are talking the final boss fight of the Sanctum of Domination raid, which is against one Sylvanas Windrunner. And specifically we are talking about what happens in that fight from a story point of view, where that fight happens, and what that means for the game after that fight, because frankly, it's worth talking about. When it was revealed at BlizzConline that Sylvanas would be the final boss of the next raid, lead narrative designer Steve Danusa had this to say.
I can say that I think it's going to be one of the most epic moments in our raiding, because it has so much story behind it, and we've spent so long now getting to know Sylvanas, seeing all these facets of her. It's not going to be a simple matter of walking in there and playing our swords against Sylvanas. There's a lot of story wrapped up into that, and it's going to be a super exciting confrontation.
One of the most epic moments in our raiding. And since the 9.1 PTR has hit and we've had a chance to comb through the dungeon journal for the encounter, it seems that Stevie was not mucking around. It's clear that what's happening at the top of Torghast at the end of Sanctum of Domination is big, and will have huge ramifications for the setting of Shadowlands in 9.2 and beyond. It throws big question marks on what role the Maw, the Tower of the Damned itself, our hub city of Oribos, even the Shadowlands itself will play for the rest of the X-Pack, not to mention the fate of Sylvanas herself. So let's look at all this, shall we? Join us as we talk the final battle against the Banshee Queen, the Jailer's plan, the probable destruction of everything we know about the Shadowlands, and the likely setting for patch 9.2. Okay, go. So first of all, let's look at what we know about the fight itself, because a combination of those dungeon journal details and data mined Sanctum of Domination raid environments gives us a pretty clear idea of what's going to go down, and what the end result might be. The Jailer's plan to escape the Maw, whatever that may be, appears to be entering the final stages. Because here's the thing about the Sylvanas fight in the Sanctum of Domination. Here's the thing you've got to remember about the Sylvanas fight. We aren't actually there for Sylvanas. It seems pretty obvious to me that the reason we are heading to the top of Torghast is to stop the Jailer. He's the one that's escaping the Maw, and he is there at the top of the tower getting ready to burst out of his prison zone. Sylvanas is just there to protect him. Players battle Sylvanas atop Torghast while the Jailer remains elusive. So that mofo is there, probably getting on with the plan while we're all kept busy, distracted by the Banshee Queen. It looks like this is the platform that this part of the fight will take place on, and you'll notice the top of Torghast beginning to pass through the tear in reality, which has been there since this expansion started. Oh, hang on a minute, what's this? It appears that the rift has changed color. Whereas before it was all blue and icy because it was Icecrown on the other side, now it's all yellow because presumably there's something else on the other side now. Some combination of the Jailer getting hold of all the sigils of the Eternal Ones, or whatever else we don't even know about yet, has changed the destination of the rift, which Sylvanas created for him to start all of this, to some other location. The dungeon journal says that the fight is spanning the in-between, and that's exactly where it seems the action moves next. Because presumably after the Jailer has made his way through, and side note, but seriously, how is he doing that? Is he just floating like a mad lad? Is he riding a goblin glider? Is some Moorsworn Kyrian grabbing him by the face? Oh man, please let it be the Moorsworn face grabbing thing, please. We don't know. We do know that there is currently an encrypted Jailer model on the PTR, which might have something to do with it. Heck, maybe he's grown wings. Who knows? But either way, once he's clear of the tower, Sylvanas decides it's time to end all of this nonsense, and let's just see what it says here. Sylvanas chains all players with domination chains, then casts Rime, destroying the tower itself. Okay, so yeah, a few things to unpack there. First of all, I think it's really cute that this whole move of chaining her opponent down and then just launching huge chunks of scenery at them is exactly what she did to Bolvar in the Shadowlands cinematic. That's just funny to me, and I appreciate the callback. But maybe we should talk about this whole destroying the tower itself bit, because, like, it certainly sounds like she's destroying Torghast is all. You know, Torghast, the Tower of the Damned, Torghast, the tower which we are atop of for this fight, and granted, Torghast is pretty big, so clearly she's not destroying all of it or whatever. Although, who knows, maybe if we can, like, really draw the intermission out, we can get her to take out the whole thing. That'd be a shame, wouldn't it? But whatever, it certainly sounds like the damage is going to be significant, and maybe try and remember that, because we'll be coming back to it later. But assuming that we survive that part, phase 2 of the fight sees us chasing the jailer as he ascends, and Sylvanas bursts into banshee form and takes to the skies to follow us. So the jailer is flying, or getting face grabbed, please let it be the face grab, through the rift. Sylvanas is flying to stop us. What are we doing to cross the expanse, as the Dungeon Journal puts it? Well, enter Jaina and Thrall to help us out, casting ice and rock spells, which we apparently jump onto and cross between in pursuit of Zovaal. This phase looks like it's going to involve keeping the dynamic duo safe and able to get their casts off to create those new paths for us, while numerous forces of the Maw attack, and Sylvanas tries to knock the raid off the edges and into the endless expanse. Fair play, Danusa, so far it does sound pretty epic actually, and also I'm glad that we need the help of two of the most powerful WoW characters to defeat jailer-powered Sylvanas. That just feels fitting to me. The next phase, though, sounds like, from a lore perspective at least, the juiciest. Sylvanas follows the player's traversal, greeting them for the final showdown between death and inevitability in the jailer's master plan. And we don't have this 1000% officially confirmed yet, but it seems reasonable from the raid environments that this climax of the fight happens in Oribos, or rather, the Arbiter's Chamber, which is usually bang on top of Oribos, both in the physical model of the hub itself and as depicted in the cinematic right at the very beginning of the expansion. But for some reason, right now, is a fair old distance away from Oribos, as our central hub is consumed by the Maw in the distance and right above the Jailer's Rift. Now, whether the chamber was dragged there by Sovaal's evil plan, or whether its security features made it try to escape from Oribos once the Maw approached and it floated right into the Jailer's trap, it seems this is where the final stage of this battle will take place. The main mechanic seems to involve the chamber's purifying field, making connections around the space that the players then have to traverse around, while Sylvanas makes various of those connections contaminated and unavailable at a time. It seems a smart bet that these connections will be leading us between the various platforms representing the Covenants, where we've seen the Eternal Ones appear for their group Zoom call meetings in the past. And I know what you may be thinking here, because I thought it too. Chamber, it says. It's not really a chamber, is it? It's the Arbiter's platform, so could all this talk of a chamber mean that there is some other, as yet unseen location for this fight? That is a fair question. I actually had to go back through my leveling footage to check, but Talinara does specifically call this platform the Arbiter's Chamber before she takes us up there the very first time, so it is definitely here that the Dungeon Journal is talking about. But again, all of this running around while Sylvanas blasts the platform we were just on sounds like, again, Sylvanas isn't actually our main focus in this part of the fight, and that it's more a case of her trying to prevent us from what we are actually trying to do, which is stop the jailer. Now, that's been the story through this entire encounter, so the really interesting question is, what is the jailer doing at this point? Well, you know, the thing about the Arbiter's platform is, it's where the Arbiter is, right? So could he be trying to take her out, or steal her power, nick that glowy stone out of her chest and put it in his? What is the jailer's plan here? Because here's the other thing, whatever the jailer's plan is, you get the feeling it is going to succeed. Okay, that's what we know about the fight itself, and now, as I see it, we have two big questions. What happens to Sylvanas, and what happens to the jailer? Let's start with that one. So if I am right, and the jailer's plan succeeds at the end of this fight, what exactly is the jailer's plan? What is he trying to do, and where is he trying to go? If he has been telling the truth to Sylvanas, and she understands his plan correctly, then he wants to free all of reality from the prison of death. So it might be reasonably assumed that he wants to take out the Arbiter, take charge of the Shadowlands, and unmake it. If that's the case, then he's certainly come to the right place. The Chekhov's gun of that glowy crystal and the hole in Zovaal's chest has been well enough established by now that I think most of us would expect him to rip it from the immobile arbiter and install it in his own crevice, and that could totally be what the encrypted jailer model is too, but what then? Because without putting it too delicately, that would pretty much be the end of the story. The jailer rules everything now, we're all dead. Not a particularly satisfying end to the expansion, and 9.2 would be a bit boring. So what if the jailer hasn't told Sylvanas his real plan? I know, right? How could this guy ever lie? It doesn't seem to make sense, but let's just pretend for a moment, okay? Humour me. What if his plan isn't to break everyone free from the prison of death at all, but just himself? The way I see it, this fight is going to end with Sylval successfully flying off to one of two places. The zone that he was originally in charge of before his betrayal caused the other Eternal Ones to lock him into the Maw, or somewhere not even in the Shadowlands, because the thing about Oribos and the Jailer's platform is it doesn't just have a connection to all the other Shadowlands zones, it also has a connection to our reality. It's not just a door into the Shadowlands, it's the door out. The Jailer's Old Covenant would be the most straightforward option from a game building point of view. It means 9.2 gives us a new, dangerous zone to go and explore, while the Jailer tries to build his forces. The zone could look like absolutely anything. The designers could go wild. We stick to a tried and tested 0.2 patch formula. Easy game. But that second option, where he escapes the Shadowlands entirely, is by far the most interesting. Not just because of where he might go, and we'll get to that, but because of what he leaves behind. Because what does a Shadowlands without the Jailer mean? It means Torghast and the Maw has much less reason to exist. We already know that the top of Torghast is getting destroyed in the fight, and in all likelihood the rift will be closing there too, so there will be a major change in the skybox of that zone. What if that is represented in the zone itself? That bit in the Sylvanas fight where the forces of the Maw are attacking Thrall and Jaina, it really is a catwalk of familiar baddies from the Maw and Torghast that appear, to the extent where it really feels like it could be some kind of last hurrah for them. The designers getting one last awesome use out of these cool models before we don't really see them again for the rest of the expansion. And the way that 9.1 as a patch really doubles down on the Maw in a big way, setting nearly all of the action there and having the Covenants establish footholds and really lay siege to the place with Covenant assaults, it all just feels like the devs might be planning to put a lid on it as a place that we need to visit after Chains of Domination. And if the Jailer really is yeeting out of the Shadowlands itself, well, that kind of means we will too, right? We need to follow the Jailer into the new Jailer danger. It would be outrageous, it would be incredibly bold, but I can almost see it happening. And if it does, where does Sylval go? Azeroth? Perhaps. It certainly seems like he might be planning on trying to turn the Azeroth World Soul into a Death Titan if his line, "Death comes for the soul of your world," means anything. Maybe he's off to kickstart the intergalactic Cosmo Disco War that we all think is coming next expansion. That's possible too. It does raise the question of Oribos, and will we still need it as a hub? Although big and impressive in my opinion, there's no denying that it's a much more simple design than recent expansion capitals. None of the nooks and crannies that we come to expect from Borealis or Dazara Lore, certainly. This is probably massively overthinking things, but could it be that the designers knew we wouldn't actually be there for the whole expansion? In 9.2, could we be heading to a new planet entirely, like Nathreza? The Dreadlords are back in 9.1 in a big way. They've helped the Jailer's #1 ally, Daddy D, escape his sword prison. Could the Jailer be heading to the twisting nether and what remains of what the Nathrezim made their homeworld after being banished from the Shadowlands? Now, technically, Illidan destroyed Nathreza in the Illidan novel, but we know at least something of it still exists, and that powerful Nathrezim still live there, because Portal Keeper Hazabel opens a big portal there in that boss fight in Antorus, where there's a whole lot of shadow magic flying through that Nathreza portal too. Don't know if that should give us some idea of what to expect. There's also unignorable Elune hints in 9.1. The Stone Rite in Revendreth is referred to by Renathal as wielder of Elu before he is interrupted, and later in that questline we see her wielding druid abilities. So, what a fuck? Okay, briefly for you non-Revendreth types, the original Stone Rite was like the third Venthyr ever created or something, but she had her powers taken away in disgrace sometime after expressing major concern with Denathrius' Nathrezim. And the current Stone Rite was the first ever mortal soul to go through Revendreth's atonement process and successfully ascend to become a Venthyr herself. In life, it looks like she had very very strong Elune connections, which she apparently still has. Could that be a clue of where the action is heading next? Could Elune be a first one or other important Cosmos leader who we will actually get to meet or interact with? Could that be what finally helps Tyrande free herself of her guilt and rage? The possibilities are endless, but I wouldn't be surprised if the action of the expansion does end up moving away from the Shadowlands themselves in some way, and I wouldn't be surprised if the more is left behind in our daily routine. Either way, I think it looks like there are big changes coming to the setting and narrative direction of the game in 9.2, and I suspect we will know what that direction is at the end of the raid. I can't wait to find out. And I also can't wait to find out what happens to Sylvanas Windrunner.
Hi guys, as you have probably seen by now, I am finally getting around to building our website. So I am really happy to share that we are working with Squarespace, who are sponsoring today's video. Now, I've had a couple of tries, but Tally is famously picky when it comes to web design, so I've had to start over again. No idea what his problem was with the first two. Thankfully, Squarespace is really easy to work with, and you can change up templates with the press of a button. Plus, it has features that are really great for us, like embedding videos and linking out to our social channels. So, third time's the charm. I think you're gonna like this one, Tally.
I'm actually quite excited for this one, very hopeful.
I took your advice and I wanted to refocus back on us and our channel, and what's the best thing about us? Our community.
Ooh, nice one.
And what's the best thing about our community? Their money. So the great thing about Squarespace is that you can put all of these buttons and links out. Got PayPal, another donate button on top of your face. That's a photo of us, by the way. And a link to our videos, it's actually a link to PayPal. And look at all the different style and formatting options they give you. So there you go, what do you think?
No.
But you're always saying how much you love their money. Okay, you know what? Fourth time's the charm. Want to create your own website for a free trial and 10% off your first purchase? Just go to squarespace.com/Taliesin Evitel or just click the link in the description below. That's squarespace.com/Taliesin Evitel.
Have we had any donations yet? Is the camera still rolling? Shh. So, you know, I can't lie, it's not looking good for Sylvanas right now, is it? Being a boss in a raid isn't the best way to guarantee your continued presence in the World of Warcraft universe, is it? And the way that this fight is being billed and hyped up, the way that there is a whole unexpected novel dedicated to the life and times of Sylvanas coming out in November, could it be that we are nearing the real end of the line for Sylvanas? Well, probably not, to be fair, no. I don't think anyone actually expects Sylvanas to bite it for reals, though, at the end of this encounter. The true question is whether she will continue to be a presence in the game or not. Maybe she spirals off into the in-between at the end of the raid. Maybe she follows the jailer. Maybe she sees the error of her ways and tries to stop the jailer from escaping at the last moment. Maybe Tyrande comes in and is about to kill Steal her, but then decides to spare her at the last moment because, you know, she's better now. Maybe Grom Hellscream pops up and goes, guys, look, if you can forgive me, you can forgive her. And everyone's like, oh, he does have a point. Maybe Sylvanas drops to her knees and is all like, oh, defeated. And we're like, yeah, to Revendreth with you, my lady. Basically, at the time of writing, we can't possibly know. So allow me to spitball for a second, just for lols. And this isn't a prediction, more a continuation of a previous thought. I think that the jailer has been lying to Sylvanas about his real plan. I think he told her what she wanted to hear, and that combined with his obvious power over her. It was his magic that raised her into undeath in the first place. It was the threat of being sent to the Maw in death that scared her back to life at the end of Icecrown, all combined to get her on side. But I think Sylvanas does genuinely think she is fighting for a noble cause here, and she is obviously having some doubts about whether she made the right choice. In opening the rift and being a general badass on the jailer's behalf, she has probably served her purpose for him now, and we know that the jailer has no real loyalty to anyone once he's got what he needs from them. So what if Zorval, otherwise known as the Betrayer, lives up to his name with Sylvanas at the end here? What if Sylvanas has us pinned down and the jailer is in reach of his supposed prize, the Arbiter, and Sylvanas is all like,
we have won. Do it, Zorval. Take the Arbiter's power and unmake
take the Shadowlands. And the jailer is all like,
Foolish mortal, I don't care about the Shadowlands. I have a much bigger prize. Thanks for your help, loser.
Catches the soul stream upwards like a salmon out of the realm of death and into our reality, ripping everything apart in the process, including Sylvanas. And Sylvanas is like, no! And all the other Eternal ones are like, yeah, that's what he was trying to do last time. That's why we had to stop him, put him in the maw. And all looks lost except with the jailer gone and Torghast out of action. Something strange happens. The Arbiter's eyes start to glow. Her head rises and she comes back online, bringing order to the chaos happening all around us. The dark fog of the now powerless maw withdraws, and with the raid party and the Shadowlands safe, the Arbiter turns to the broken body of Sylvanas, which now has her spirit kneeling beside it, and says, "Rise, Sylvanas Windrunner, for judgment." And here is where we get the twist, because you might well expect Sylvanas to end up in the maw, or at the very least Revendreth, to atone for her many sins, and fair enough. But what do we know about the Arbiter? It tells us in that very first cinematic. She judges a soul for what shaped them in life. And every major sin that Sylvanas has committed, the reason we all hate her and want revenge on her, came after her life, in undeath, under the domination of Arthas, or through the influence of the jailer. If judged only by what she did in life, well, she died protecting her people against the forces of the jailer. You could make a case for her joining the armies of Maldraxxus for her skills in battle, or Ardenweald as a protector of the forests as she was in life, but her life was defined in so many ways by service and sacrifice. And we've seen that her memories and the pain they cause her don't give her strength. They're a source of pain and suffering. She carries weight and baggage which it would benefit her greatly to have lifted. Honestly, I think she's got Bastion written all over her in that case. Now, obviously, that would upset a lot of people. Tyrande would be like, you've got to be kidding me. She burned down my tree. Jaina and Thrall would be like, no, seriously though, she is very bad news. Look what she did to Anduin. But I think the denizens of the Shadowlands would understand the bigger picture, that Sylvanas died a hero. And from the moment Arthas raised her, she had an existence of pain, torture, and suffering. I can imagine the Arbiter saying something like, travesties that the jailer has committed have caused misery to all of us here, but none more so than Sylvanas Windrunner. Our role is to judge the deeds a soul performed in life, not the horrors it commits when forced to exist between our two realms. Sylvanas Windrunner is our responsibility now, and will walk her rightful path. I think that as a temporary ending to Sylvanas' story, that makes sense. Liz owe us an amazing raid ending cinematic, and what better use of it than the Arbiter's judgment of Sylvanas? Do I think Blizz will do it? I'm sure that they know if they did, the kind of shit show that would ensue. So honestly, I would totally understand them wimping out and just being like, yeah, go to Revendreth or whatever. But you know, I love a shit show, internet. So yeah, that's totally what I would do. But what would you do? Where do you think the jailer is heading? What do you think the state of the Arbiter will be by the time he makes it there? Where is Sylvanas left at the end of it all? And where will the action move to once the jailer is no longer bound to the maw? The potential is endless, so I genuinely love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And thanks for joining us today. If you like this video, don't thank us. Thank our patrons who give their actual real life money to make all of our work happen. And seriously guys, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you, because without you, there'd be a whole lot less Taliesin Evitel. If you didn't like it, downvote the shit out of it. Remember, my name is Platinum Wow. No, my name is Taliesin, from me and Evitel and the Nyrin too. Until next time, cheerio.